the sport is so badass that's why guys like me are so passionate about protecting it. Is because you get people that come in there with a different agenda than me. My agenda, your agenda, is just go in there and go fishing and compete against the best fishermen in the world, and that's what we want to do. That's all we want to do, and make a living being able to do it. Well, they got other people that come in there and they get greedy, and they want to stick their hands in the cookie jar without the best interest of everybody else, and they want to take from it, and then all they're doing is hurting the sport and hurting each other.
The folks at Jinko Fishing not only bring you the Low Budget Live podcast, they bring you all the action, like that minnow shaking action and the new Dawn minnow that released at ICAST in a 5-inch version. Well, for all you big minnow lovers out there, a new 6-inch version just dropped in some absolutely amazing colors. Pair the Dawn up with the all-new Revolution jig head that was specifically designed to get the most action out of this bait. It's going to roll like crazy. It's got gaff technology, offset in this hook. When you stick him, he is not coming off. Has a bait keeper that is so good you can throw your super glue in the trash. Don't just take my word for it. Check them out at jinkofishing.com. The Don and the Don Senior and Revolution heads available now. You can use code LBL20 and save 20% off. That doesn't even make sense. 20% off at jinkofishing.com. Tell them you're a lowlifer. Tell them we sent you. And we appreciate the folks from Jinko Fishing being the presenting sponsor of Low Budget Live. And guess what we get to do now? Hang the banner. That Bassmaster Classic winning banner. That's right. The original all-welded aluminum bass boat to take a ride around that arena with a classic trophy. The X21 Pro got it done. But now they got the new XR21. They've got new duck boats. They've got new bay boats and everything in between for every kind of budget out there. The folks at Express Boats. Get on the website, find a dealer near you, go test drive one, take a look around, sit in the seat, make motor noises. I don't care. Trust me, when you get in one, you will enjoy it. Fastest hole shot in the game with that 250 Yamaha show, pushing that X21 Pro up and down the lake. If you like to fish shallow, if you like to fish deep, trust me, it is the most versatile boat that I have ever owned in my life. Express Boats, building excitement since 1966.
Damn these Biloxi blues, it happens every night.
Every old night.
And I ain't never met a riverboat dealer that could ever be a friend of mine.
No.
The summer heat never treats me kind, it leaves trouble on my mind. So I'm bidding farewell, putting in my notice, and I'll see you at another time. This highway does not know my name, and I don't care.
Nope.
No, I don't care.
I don't.
Headed my way for another place, and I got 3 good tires and a spare.
Right to the hook right here.
Just a white line gypsy getting out of Mississippi with just enough gas to get there.
Low budget live, the not so live variety from the Low Budget Live Bar and Grill here in beautiful southern Middle Tennessee. Presented by them folks over there at Jinko Fishing. Use code LBL20 to save some money at jinkofishing.com. And we are back in the bar and grill. This is the podcast for Monday, November the 3rd. And I cannot believe it is November. The Triple Threat and I were talking about that this morning. It is crazy. It'll be Christmas before you know it. And then we'll just be right back into more craziness, because the craziness of 2025 has subsided for me. The last tournament that I will work this year, the Alabama Bass Trail 100, just wrapped up on Wilson Lake. And now I think I got 11 weeks before we are back to talking live bass fishing again at the first ABT 100 of the year, I believe, on Smith Lake in January of 2026. So 11 weeks to try to deer hunt a little bit, crappie fish, bass fish, do all the things. Spend time with the fam, any combination within those parameters right there. That's where you can find me coming up. But awesome event. huge thank you to the Alabama Bass Trail crew, John Simpson, Daniel Montgomery, the whole bunch of them. There's too many to name. They're all awesome, and they do an incredible job. They've welcomed me with open arms the last couple of years, man. Miss Kay Donaldson, the entire crew, and awesome season. Awesome event on Wilson. I talked about it last week. Such a special deal. I kept texting Marissa, like, I can't believe this is happening here. And for me personally, just the amount of time I've spent on that lake, especially with my dad and with my boys over the years, man, just pretty cool seeing an event where Nolan and Robbie Spencer took home $33,000 on a little Saturday on Wilson Lake, and it was a cool event. It was neat seeing how so many just incredible anglers attacked that body of water, and a lot of them that had never been there before. It was, I believe Nolan Reese said that other than just a couple days of practice, he had never really been on Wilson. He found an absolute juice spot and he and his dad caught almost 25 pounds. So very cool. Huge congrats to Zeke Gossett and Ethan King. They won the Angler of the Year there in the 100s. And you're talking about amazing Alabama fishermen. I believe we have like 11 or 12 different states represented, folks from all over the country. And then you have Bassmaster Classic champs, Bassmaster Anglers of the Year, BPT anglers. It is a stout field. So to win Angler of the Year, it's nothing to sneeze at. And those guys were actually able to do that in the Alabama Bass Trail South as well. Zeke has won Angler of the Year in the North in the ABT. And man, you talk about a proving ground, and he has proven that he can catch them all over the place. Just narrowly missed making the Bassmaster Classic there at that Nation event up on the Mississippi River. And then he just made the BFL All-American as well. So insane run that dude's on. But Zeke has been catching them since he was a very, very young man, and he's going to make noise for a long time to come. All right. Real quick, man, I recorded today's interview we'll get to here in just a minute. I guess we recorded on Thursday of last week, and it's when the schedule kind of worked out for it. And this news had not hit social media whenever we recorded, and that's the news that Miss Kathy Fennel from MLF, former FLW, El Presidente there, she has stage 4 cancer and is stepping back. And anytime they throw that the cancer word around, it's just, obviously I hate it, and like so many of you low-lifers out there, but you especially hate it when it's somebody that truly is one of the most remarkable humans to have ever walked this earth. I mean, she is. She's a very, very amazing person, and what she's done in this fishing world, what she has tried to do for anglers, and do it with a smile more times than not. An incredible person, and I hated to hear that news. And I just wanted to say, before we kick things off here, from the bottom of my heart, the Duncans are absolutely thinking about you, Miss Kathy, and we know you are one strong woman, and thank you for everything you've done in the sport of bass fishing. Now go kick cancer's ass. That's what I want to say today, and I have no doubt she will. But hated to hear that news, to say the very, very least, man. That was a rough one. Me and Miss Kay Donaldson were talking about that this past weekend at the ABT. Just, man, you just hate it. Just, cancer does not discriminate, as I know all too well, and again, so many of y'all know out there. So, want to talk real quick about this interview. Gerald Spohrer and I have had a history, to say the very least. Really think a lot of the dude, and our relationship has kind of been, we fished the tour. We started the FLW Tour at the same time together back in 2016, and then he moved on to the Bassmaster Elite Series there, and then when the big switch happened, Gerald went to the Bass Pro Tour. Whenever I was critical of things in 2019, talking about it wasn't sustainable for no entry fees, all the things, right, that a lot of folks on the MLF side of the fence, some of which are back at Bassmaster now, were very upset about, anglers, staff included, all those things. and don't have to go through the laundry list there. But Gerald was one that, and we laugh about this now, but Gerald in an MLF group text that I got screenshot and sent to me, because I got most of them screenshot and sent to me during those days. Gerald said, somebody tell Luke Duncan I want to go on his podcast because I want to call him a bitch. And I was like, oh, hold up. So I tagged him in social media. We had some good back and forth. And then he came on the show, man. And we talked for over an hour on that episode. You can go back and find that somewhere in the hallways of YouTube, I'm sure. It's been a very long time ago. But Gerald came on, and, man, we had a great conversation. But he was so passionate about what they were doing. And he bought in and flew the flag, absolutely fought as hard as he could against critics, for the league, Bass Pro Tour, all the things, right? And then there was kind of a shift when the 5 fish changed, one of the many changes, but when the 5 fish changed, we went from every fish counts to 5 fish. Gerald was one of the ones that kind of organized that deal. And so he came back on the podcast again to talk about that. And the tone was different this time as far as, how he felt about leadership within the Bass Pro Tour, mainly Boyd Duckett, Jim Wilbur. And he was critical of things. And so they did the 5 fish thing for a year, and then they were told, hey, it's not going to happen anymore. We're going back to every fish counts. Our views are going down. And Gerald just kind of went with it. Then they started making the cuts and things, and Gerald and I were texting a lot. He was unhappy. Gerald started asking me about NPFL a couple years ago, and Gerald then this year did not requalify. And in this interview, he'll definitely address that. And the reason I'm prefacing this is it's like the James Watson deal. It takes a very big man to speak out against the establishment. I respect people that can tell you exactly how they feel. And he does that in this interview. And now it's like this full circle moment for he and I both, where most of the things I was very critical of, we're going to talk about here in this interview. But hope y'all enjoy it. He's a solid dude. I will say, before we jump into it, my man was driving a skid steer the entire time. That takes talent. I don't know if he'll win Angler of the Year in the NPFL next year, or he'll win all the tournaments. But I know, being on Low Budget Live and driving a skid steer at the same time and answering the questions and bringing the heat, as Gerald Spohrer does in this interview, is pretty damn impressive to me, if you're asking me. Real quick, get you some bait fuel. Bait fuel is going to fuel everybody. It's going to fuel this interview. You see what I did there? Yeah. Bait fuel, pour it out and all over you plastics. Don't put it on like a hot dog or anything. I don't think you're going to like that, but you're going to fuel every bite with some bait fuel. Something that I've been playing with a lot, this bait fuel hard bait stick right here. I just lather up them old jerk baits. I've been putting on spinner baits. I ain't gonna lie. I put it on a lot of things that I'm throwing. I do think it has that scent dispersion that helps hide your ears if your name rhymes with Andy on that forward-facing sonar deal. But both of these things, and I've said this every week so far since bait fuel came on board, both of these things I see in a lot of anglers' boats that have nothing to do with them from a sponsor level. And I pay attention to things like this, because I've been in this industry for a long time. A lot of times you get paid to say this, that, or the other. And this is one that from the jump, people have been very fired up about. So get you some bait fuel. Tell them you're a low lifer. Maybe if you go to like an Academy Sports and buy bait fuel and they're like, what's a low lifer? The girl at the checkout's probably going to think you're crazy, but you can try it. See how it goes. We appreciate the folks from American Bait Works and Bait Fuel. All right, here we go. Let's and this is a long one. He and I are both talkers. Gerald can hold court, man. And y'all listen to the whole thing. It's a lot of fun, ladies and gentlemen. Gerald Spohrer. All right, as promised, here he is. Working man / Bass Pro these days. He's in the skid steer taking us along. This Gerald Spohrer, this is a first. This is a first. You and I have had some firsts on this show. We have, you and I have been at each other's throats years ago, and we buried that hatchet real fast. And it's been kind of it's been good getting to know you better. I've had you on a couple times. You're always honest. And now you're bringing the first ever skid steer to Low Budget Live.
Yeah, it's just that time of the year, where we only have so much off season, so you gotta try to get everything done. Some people, I don't know, they deer hunt a lot. I deer hunt too, but I just have so many things on my plate right now. I was like, hey, I would love to do this show, but we got to try to do them both at the same time. If you're okay with that.
I'm totally fine with it, man. There's a lot of people that are going to be watching this. The low-lifers out there, they understand. They're listening to this while they're working, just like I listen to so many podcasts while I'm working, and that's how it goes in life, man. Well, you told me a little bit before we started recording. You said you needed to do some work around your house, and so that kind of led you into this heavy equipment world. But now you're doing it's I don't want to say a side hustle, but it's a perfect job when you're not on the road chasing bass all over the country.
Yeah, it's every bass fisherman, we get real busy, of course, during bass fishing season, but we do have some lull periods in there. And that time on the water 100% of the time, and that's how plans and things that you can do that where you can still come home and be with your family every day. And because I thought about guiding, and I was like, man, that really just pretty much never takes me off the water, and that'll just eat away time with the family. So there's a lot of other ways to make extra money besides competing, and guys find different ways. And what I've learned is there's quite a few of us that do this.
Yeah, for sure.
We can schedule everything in between our tournaments. It pays really good money. And, everyone, we all like the outdoors. So that you can cross all this equipment right into your deer hunt leases and everything else. So it's just, I don't know, it's the most functional side hustle we have, I think, is owning some equipment and working for somebody.
Well, my thing is, I've said this to a lot of people over the years when it comes to the professional bass fishing world, and I guess I'm, maybe selfish in saying this because I've got 4 or 5 different jobs to make ends meet, and I just hustle. I do a lot of different things, and I've always been that way. But my biggest frustration with guys at times, Gerald, and you not being one of those, but I've got buddies that they're like, man, I need to know how to make more money. I got to get these sponsors to pay me more. I got to do this. And I'm like, son, you work 8 to 10 weeks a year fishing. There's a lot more time in that year. You could do something else. You got to figure it out, man. It's always my line in life. You got to figure it out. So good on you for investing and jumping on this. And like I told you, I just need you to bring it to Southern Middle Tennessee, and let's get down on the deer lease and see how good you are at driving that thing.
Well, my personal property has offered enough word to me to be excellent training grounds where I feel like I can do anything now with it. I have an excavator and a skid steer, and I just went and bought a dump truck. Drove all the way I've actually sent somebody to go get it, but bought a dump truck all the way in Ohio and paid a guy to fly up there and grab it and drive it all the way home. But now we got us a nice dump truck. So we're ready to do some work.
Well, before we roll into fishing stuff, what's the name of your business where if people in your area or anywhere closer listening, they can get you to do some work?
Louisiana Land Pros.
Okay. Louisiana Land.
We do a little bit. I even went to septic tank school, so now I'm licensed to do new installs on septic tanks, even though I haven't done any yet, but it's very straightforward. I watched them do the septic tank on my new construction, and I was like, that is easy. It's very basic plumbing. You already use the same equipment, and I don't want to service them. I just want to do new installs on that kind of stuff. So I went and got certified for that, so I'm licensed to do that now. And Yeah, so whenever I go, I want to do like people's house pads, and if I go to do a house pad for new construction, then I'll offer the full service. Like, oh, you want me to put your septic tank in too? You want me to come back and do your finish grading? You want me to dig out all your drainage? It's kind of where we're at with it right now. But Louisiana
That's
Land
awesome.
Pros, I'm fully licensed, insured, 100% legit. We got a social media, the Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, putting a lot of content out there on some of the work that we're doing. And so, yeah. And then, of course, like everything else that we do in life, we try to tie it back into fishing. So, like I was telling you before we started the show, I had a meeting last night with one of the big manufacturers in the industry, and we started talking about these equipment companies like to sponsor fishing as well because it's all outdoor stuff.
For sure.
And so last night we had dinner with the marketing person for one of these big companies, and it's like, all right, well, we own a dirt business too. It's not just fishing, but we'll integrate the two together. And they were all in on that. So looking forward to where this goes.
The seasons are starting to change a little bit, starting to be a little cool at night, and you better be ready for the fall and winter fishing season or hunting season. And you can do that by going to gillfishing.com. Make sure your rain suit is up to par for those cooler days, nasty days on the water. We're going to have a lot of fronts coming up. You want to be prepared. Get you some layering gear, get you some hoodies, get you some boots. Gillfishing.com. You can use code LBL20. That's right, 20% off at gillfishing.com on some of the best outdoor gear in the game. Tell them we sent you. Gillfishing.com, LBL20. Pro Guide Batteries, ProGuideBatteries.com is where you can find everything that they make. And why trust your battery game to someone that is a fly-by-night company? There are battery companies that pop up, I feel like, every week. The folks from Pro Guide have been in this battery business for over 40 years. They make some of the finest lead acid, AGM, and lithiums in the game, and now they have a new charger line. That's what I'm running in the Express this year. I've got a little bit of mix of lithium, AGM, and a Pro Guide 5-bank charger. Check them out, ProGuideBatteries.com. LBL10 will save you money just for being a lowlifer. Baitworks.com, bait-wrx.com, the exclusive online home for this little bad boy right here. The LOB Power Finesse Jig, finer than frog hair skirt material, custom trocar hook. It is jig season officially. This dude right here, this time of year, absolutely puts in the work. Dunkin-10, Dunkin-10 saves you money on that and everything else on the Baitworks site, baitworks.com. And last but not least, what's up, old boy? Old Boy Brands, Old Boy Outfitters out of Knoxville, Tennessee. They make some of the coolest lifestyle gear in the game, from their game day collections to their hunting and fishing tees, long sleeve hooded sun shirts, shorts. They got a little bit of everything. Hoodies, it's growing by the day. Oldboyoutfitters.com is where you can find it, and you can use code OLDBOYLUKE, Old Boy, O-L-E, boy, Luke, at checkout to save some money. And I feel like you've always been a guy that those non-endemic type sponsors, you've worked with those, right? Like that's been part of your program, I feel like.
Yes, I've always tried to figure, you look at the fishing industry as a whole. If a guy tries to go out there and build a business model based off endemic sponsorship, he's not going to make it. It's just the industry's not there anymore, and they just don't. The fishermen are so spread out, like between multiple leagues and everything, and the sponsors, they just got to slice the pie so many different ways that. They're still doing all right. They're getting the exposure they want, but the fishermen just can't really win in that situation. And that's kind of where we've struggled between having multiple leagues now is that, hell, some of the conversations I had with sponsors they were saying, I don't really know where to put my money. There's too many places, and I don't have the resources to cover it all.
That's right.
And so you can't really base your business model off the fishing industry alone anymore. And I never thought it was a good idea, even when it was at its prime, to do that anyway, because
$1,000,000%. Yeah.
There's so much money out there to get from people. There's so many budgets that are untapped. And you start chasing the endemic sponsorship, and everybody's putting their hand in the same cookie jar.
Yep.
And they're all trying to copycat each other with their business models and everything else. You can't separate yourself at all. And
it's tough, man.
And so, yeah, that's why I've always, since day one, I have focused on non-endemics first. And then that allowed me to then partner with endemics that I wanted to be with. And I wasn't so focused on who was going to pay me the most money. I can just stick with the people that I really enjoyed working with.
Yep. No, I love that. And I always, when I fished the tour, I always approached it that way. I think the non-endemic, we saw that with FLW Tour back in the day, non-endemics being Walmart and some of those companies brought on. That was when the sport had the biggest payouts we've ever seen. Where it had nothing to do with the fishing industry. It wasn't Bass Pro Shops writing those checks. It wasn't, the big lure companies or motor companies or boat companies. It was, there was Ranger Cup money in there, I should say. But for the most part, it was outside non-endemic that made the sport huge for a little bit, payout wise.
Yep. And another angle that I took on early is what I do in the saltwater world. I've invested. You got to really look at the big picture of every little part of it. So a lot of people, I had a couple anglers tell me like, "Hey, dude, you would probably perform better in your tournaments if you wouldn't focus so much on that saltwater stuff." Just joking.
Yeah.
And I was like, "No, you're right. I could probably cut a few more checks in bass fishing if it was all I did." I said, "But that ain't going to put no more money in my pocket." I said, "I'm going to make way more money thinking the way I'm thinking and focusing on these businesses." So I invested heavy in the saltwater side of the business. And that's what has gotten most of my endemic sponsorship, because they'll come down to Venice, Louisiana, and we'll do a little bit of everything down there. Bass fish, saltwater fish, go offshore, and it's a one-stop shop where they can come get all the content they want, and it doesn't cost the company any money because I've already invested in all that stuff. So that's kind of a deliverable that I offer to these sponsors. It's like, hey, you get to come down here. I got a 37-foot Freeman with quad Suzuki's on the back of it, so
Jeez.
It's like a serious offshore boat.
No
I said, come down here. We can chase tuna, we could chase blue marlin, we can go catch red snapper or whatever, and then the next day we'll go bass fishing and we'll catch 100 largemouth for your videographer. We can do everything, and it doesn't cost the company any money because all you got to do is pay for your travel, and then when you get down there, I got the lodging covered, got everything covered, and they love that. That's been something everybody has taken advantage of. And that's what's really, you got to find a way to be valuable to these companies. And I wasn't one of those people that was going to base my whole business model off of social media. And that's kind of the direction everybody goes because it's all they know.
Right.
Like,
it's what they get told, right? Yeah.
Yeah. That's what they get told. And it's like, no, there's so many other ways to do it. You just got to be creative and try to think of it.
Now, do you, on the saltwater side, Gerald, are you selling guide trips down there? I mean, do you got a guy that captains that boat when you're not there? You said you invested in it. Is that another business for you? You've got a charter business. I knew you saltwater fished a lot. I don't guess I realized that you had a setup down there at Venice.
Yeah, so I don't. That's one of my deliverables to my non-endemic. My big non-endemic is Brown and Root Industrial, which is a billion-dollar construction company worldwide, and they have over 10,000 employees, and they're a 100-year-old company. And part of my deliverables to them is I am their private charter captain. So I'll take oil and gas people on fishing trips, take them and their families, and a lot of these big companies, they own their own boats, they pay their own captains, or they'll spend a lot of money on charter trips every year to do these kind of things. And I was like, hey, you know, that's part of my deal with y'all. I own the boat. You don't have to worry about owning that asset. I own that asset. Sorry, I'm trying to not hit something backing up at the same time. There's a big electrical box behind me.
Yeah, let's not hit that. Let's not hit that on Low Budget Live. I don't want that on my plate.
No, you can take something out with this equipment and not even know it.
Oh yeah, that's crazy. For sure. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, but
I'm hell on wheels in one of those things, dude. I've seen me run over all kind of shit.
Yeah. So I own that asset. I take the liability. I have the insurance, all that other stuff, and I'm a licensed captain, Coast Guard captain. So, you know, they don't have to worry about that. And then they can just say, hey, we sponsor our fisherman. That's Gerald. And if you want to go fishing with him, this is his setup, and they can come down there and jump in that Freeman with me, and we can go make some memories. But
very cool.
When it comes down to the endemic side, like Seaguar Fishing Line, they came down last year, and it's like, all right, we want to film stuff inshore and offshore because they have products for both worlds. And then same with Bubba. Bubba just came down. Grundon's came down last week. Nomad's coming next week. And yeah, so it's just that's my edge to the industry is.
That's cool.
But anyway.
And you get to chase your passion, your other passion, which is saltwater offshore, and you get to showcase your state there, because Venice is one of the most special places on planet Earth. Period. In the story, always will be. Incredible place, man.
And I don't, there's a lot of money to be made guiding offshore, and I could put, I think the rate right now is $2,300 a day plus fuel. Plus tip. So it costs a person about $4,000 a day to go on one of these trips in a boat like that.
That's wild.
But I can do it. I can run them every day if I wanted to. But again, I would be away from my family. I would never. I'm not raising my son down in Venice, Louisiana. That's not really where you want to do that if you don't have to.
There's a marina and a Dollar General basically down there, buddy. Yeah, you don't want to do that.
No, exactly. So I try to mix it in. That's why the dirt work thing is an alternative where I can still be close to home, make plenty of money, and then not wear myself out just fishing every single day of my life.
Yeah, I'm with that. Well, on this bass fishing side, it's funny that it's very appropriate, I should say, that you're in the skid, because when you made your video last week, everybody, Andy Morgan made a video, Luke Clausen, Jeremy Lawyer, yourself. I may be missing somebody on that as well. I had a list here last week of everybody that I guess that was it. You, Lawyer, Clausen, and Morgan made posts, or Rumbanis, Freddie, talking about the future, and you made it from your equipment there, and you said, hey man, I'm just taking a break. I've been real busy. I'm taking a break just to make this video. It's kind of the gist of the video, but talking about how, your decision, you weren't on the BPT roster. It had came out and you hadn't got to explain yourself and your plans, but you did. And you mentioned a few things, but talking, little frustration. It's been a roller coaster over there since you guys went, obviously, a lot of changes. And then now that's going to lead to you joining the NPFL next year.
Yeah, so everyone's been paying attention to the NPFL since y'all started. And it's kind of one of those things, like, it was a perfect place for guys that weren't on one of the professional tours yet. But it wasn't established enough yet for a guy to walk away from a professional tour. So everyone's been paying attention because it's like, well, what we got going on? We got another tour, which is good for fishermen. Which is real. I mean, honestly, it's good for fishermen to have another place to fish. But everyone was always behind the scenes dealing with BS with the other two organizations. So everybody really just wants a place to go fish and not deal with that crap. And so that's why was like, oh, great, another professional tour. Hopefully they don't have the BS. And so that's the main reason why everyone was paying attention. And then, you know, of course, a bunch of y'all's guys, original people that y'all signed up, they were doing a great job putting on a show. And then some of the other guys started crossing over from other tours and going over there and fishing. So then we started all asking, like, hey, what's it like over there?
Yeah.
And over the years, probably the last 3 or 4 years, every single person that I've talked to, it's been 100% positive feedback. And you just kind of wait, and you're like, well, wait, let's wait for the BS. You know it's coming. That's what they all say.
That's right.
And it just, man, it never came. You know, and I talked to guys that you would expect to hear some negativity from.
Yeah.
And
guys
they were like,
complain. Yeah.
He's like, no, dude, they just run a great tournament, and there's really nothing to complain about. And that's what I used to tell. Like, I've been in a lot of meetings with these organizations over the years. I fished, so I'm one of few in the industry, and people don't realize this, but I fished every single tour. FLW, Bass Elite, Bass Pro Tour, and now I'm going to the NPFL. So I can literally speak about every single tour. Now, I haven't been in the weeds with every single tour because early on in my career, when I signed up, you know, a lot of disgruntled people are disgruntled based off of conversations that happened years prior to me ever getting to a professional tour. So it takes a little while before you start getting pissed off at an organization because
well, you're just happy to be there first, Gerald. It's like a job. You're happy to be there. You start a new job, and then all of a sudden you're like, man, this boss sucks. Man, I don't like Cheryl in accounting. You know what I mean? Like you start getting to know the lay of the land. You're like, damn, this ain't, hang on now. I want to talk to somebody.
Yeah, exactly. You get in there, you start getting involved, and then people start making promises, and then promises start not coming true. And then you start saying, hey, man, remember when you said this? Hey, you promised to this. That's whenever the drama starts happening. It's like, dude, I was in that meeting and you told me that this was going to happen. And you just bold-faced lied to me. And so anyway, that there's a lot of that stuff that goes on, and that's what makes people get disgruntled. It's not as simple as, dude, you get to go fishing every day. Why are you complaining? It's like, I'm sorry, but the sport is so badass that's why guys like me are so passionate about protecting it. Is because you get people that come in there with a different agenda than me. My agenda, your agenda, is just go in there and go fishing and compete against the best fishermen in the world, and that's what we want to do. That's all we want to do, and make a living being able to do it. Well, they got other people that come in there and they get greedy, and they want to stick their hands in the cookie jar without the best interest of everybody else, and they want to take from it, and then all they're doing is hurting the sport and hurting each other. And so a lot of guys just sit back and let it happen. And then there's other guys like me. I've got a lot of life experience. I've been around the world. I was in the military. I've literally been around the world. I've circled it in a ship. I've seen a lot of stuff. And one thing that I've been blessed with my whole life is I can see bullshit. And I see these people like Boyd Duckett coming to the sport and just trying to take. And they don't give back, and then they, along the way during their taking process, they're just lying to everybody, and getting away with it, and so that's where we get sideways.
No doubt, and I think getting away with it, for the most part, he gets away with it. Obviously, people keep signing up to a certain extent, but you obviously know I'm a passionate dude about what I believe in and things. And you are definitely that guy too. And that was really one of the first conversations we had outside of knowing each other in the FLW tour. And when I left my former company I worked for, it was a similar thing, man, where you get promised a lot of BS. There's a lot of changes going on constantly. You can't wrap your head around. And then at the end of the day, people let you down. Right. And you're passionate and trying to fix things and want to make things better for the greater good of people working there type thing. And it's the same for you, I feel like, with MLF BPT, because you were without a doubt, in 2019, you and I had an over hour-long conversation right here on this show. Dude, you were waving the flag. You were defending, hey, we're doing this. We're going bigger, badder, better. This is where we're headed. You don't understand. You know, your criticism's not fair because of this. And you made me see a lot of things, right? And you were that guy. And so I think it's such a shame whether it's a job, a bass fishing organization, hell, a marriage, right? When people let someone like you or myself, I'll throw myself in there, but when you let us see through it and take a turn, right? Like that's when you get let down and the promises fall through the cracks. It's a damn shame, man, because again, I'm the kind of guy, I'll ride with you till the day I die. As long as you don't step on my feet, you know what I mean? As long as you don't bullshit me, as long as you don't treat me like I shouldn't be treated, you know, the rules of engagement. I say that a lot. My kids get tired of me hearing it. I'm like, hey, I just need to know the rules of engagement. As long as we're treating each other fair and with respect, everything will be fine. But man, it is a shame. When I saw your video, I was one of the first things I thought, I was like, dude, this guy right here 6 years ago was absolutely as passionate about that organization as he could be based on what you were sold. And I very much agree. You've got a bullshit meter on you just like I do. And sometimes people get through it. I had that similar thing happen to me last year in business. I had some bad eggs that just wolf in sheep's clothing kind of deal, man. And it can happen even to those of us that think they got a good bullshit meter. That's for sure, buddy.
Yeah. And you know, I remember at the time on the Elite Series, my roommate was Seth Fighter. And, we're both trying to make the decision to go to BPT, and Seth pretty much was just like, nah, dude, I ain't doing it. And I was like, for what? Why? Like everything,
yeah.
No entry fees. Like I started going down the list. He goes, I just don't believe what's coming out of Boyd Duckett's mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't believe what he has to say either, but there's so many other people involved. Johnny Morris, Stan Kroenke. You just go down the list of the amount of people involved. I was like, there's no way they're going to let this dude get away with screwing us over. It's not all on him. Like he doesn't get he's not that person to me. I was like, I don't know, dude. And I was very torn because Seth's one of my favorite people. And I really enjoyed running around with him, chasing bass. And that was the fun, looking back, that was the funnest time of my career is that those first couple of years in the Elite Series. But I didn't care at the time what organization I fished at. I had one goal, and that was to fish against the best guys in the world. And the list of people at the Elite Series in 2018, it was just loaded with all your, you know, you could argue whether they're the best fishermen or not or whatever, but they had all the titles. They had all the AOYs. They had all the classics. So to me, to be the best, you had to be able to beat the best or compete against the best. And there was no way of measuring success other than following those people and competing against them. And so I worked my butt off and I made it to the Elite Series, and I was finally getting to fish against guys like Kevin Van Dam. And I wasn't going to let them just go somewhere else. And that quickly, I hadn't fished against them long enough. And so I was like, no, I got to go wherever these guys go. I mean, everybody went. So
yeah,
I was
no
like,
doubt.
I don't really care what organization I fish at. I had no beef with Bassmasters at the time because I was new. I didn't know anything, and I was just happy to be there, like you said. And so anyway, I was just listening to the noise and followed those guys. And Seth stayed behind and went on to win an AOY and stuff like that. And I went over there, and immediately the flags started flying. But I remember telling some other anglers, some big name anglers that walked away from the league very early on. I'm like, hey, dude, this is the way I see it. We all walked away from Bassmasters together. Not all of us have the option to be able to just go back on a Legends exemption.
Very true.
So it was a commitment to a guy like me. I was like, you just asked me to quit a league that was very, very hard to qualify for. The last thing that y'all need to do is start walking away from it and leaving guys like me behind. I was like, we're in this together. We walked in this ballroom and we're going to start swinging. You can't just quit in the middle of the fight and go do something else. I was like, we're in this fight. And so guys just started walking away from it. And I'm like, whatever, each his own. I didn't hold that against them. But my mindset was, if something's not right, I'm going to work really hard to come up with a solution, and we're going to try to figure it out. And that's where I thought we were. We still had the mindset, this is an angler-ran league. And so we had a lot of say the first few years. And so we just started really going over everything from production and all that stuff. I hated production from day one. I thought our production was ridiculous. I was like, we don't tell any stories. We don't talk about where guys are catching fish.
Fish catch. Yeah.
It was just cut. What it is you literally take an intern and you put him in a seat and you tell him copy and paste every fish catch you can. And he's just copying and pasting, and there's no creativity to it at all. I just thought it was so lazy. And they were like, oh, well, we're getting more viewership than everybody else. It's like, that's right. We might be, but we're also putting out 100 times more episodes than everybody else. And we're paying for a lot of our TV time. It's like, it's not really organic. It's just the fact that it's on TV and people just leave it on the outdoor channel and they walk outside, go cut grass and stuff like that.
And that's the reason I know. Well, not to cut you off, but that's the same with Bassmaster and FS1. I mean, it's on TV. Like, I get they talk about these crazy millions and millions of viewers, but that's the same with that as well. Like, I can't just hang that on MLF. You know what I mean? That's a problem in our industry, I think.
It is, and you got to make people truly invest in it and become a fan of it. Not just like, oh, that's cool, just have it playing in the background, but they're not really paying attention to it. Like, you watch your favorite Netflix show, you make sure before you start the show, you make sure everything's done, the kitchen's clean, the kids are sleeping, so you can pay attention.
That's right. Be invested.
Be invested. And the only way you get invested is you got to create fans. You got to tell anglers stories. You got to bring them into it and organically and make them fall in love with you. And then they're not going to miss an episode and they want to see every little thing you do. But we've never done it that way. I felt like Bass always did a way better job telling a story. But the problem with Bass is they got way too many commercials and they spend way too much time in the studio.
I see those comments. Yeah, I see those comments. And, my thing with live coverage, Gerald, is, I've been doing it for, I had a guy yesterday trying to hire me to do a tournament, and I threw him a price out there and he kind of laughed at the price I gave him. And I think it shocked him, but anyways, neither here nor there. But I told him, I was like, well, bro, I'll just be honest with you. You're talking to a guy that does more live bass fishing right now in the country than just about anybody else, to be honest. I can have for several years now between two different leagues. But so I try not to be too judgmental on what people do on live, just because I know the behind the scenes chaos that can go on with it. But I will say this year, in particular, I've got to watch more BPT than I have in a while. And I do think their production, they have changed the mindset a little bit. And as far as the fish catch. And there were a few more stories. Now, I do agree with you that Bass, for years, especially when it was an edited TV show, the stories there were incredible. That's what we all grew up being obsessed with, was the story of the one individual tournament, Yeah. And I will say my goal every time the red light comes on is to try to tell a story. Fat Cat too. Like, that is what I like that. I tell our producer this all the time. Hey man, don't jump away from a guy that's leading the tournament that ain't had a bite in 2 hours. I want to see the struggle. That's part of this. On the final day, if the wheels are falling off, I want to see the wheels fall off just as much as I want to see a dude skip under a dock and catch a 6-pounder. Right. So I think that is that's very important. But I totally get what you're saying on all that. And going back to like the beginning of the BPT thing, like you said, it was such a wave, man, with all the big dogs. They had so many carrots between the no entry fee. And I said multiple times, man, I don't see this being sustainable, feasible, whatever you want to call it. But then they had that, but the no entry fee thing was huge. But then, like you said, the competition, bringing Skeet and bringing Kevin and Gerald and Jason Christie, Mark Davis, these, you know what I mean? Like the list goes on and on and on. These legends of the sport that have been around forever, AOYs and classic champs. When you get that call, it's hard not to go.
Yeah.
So hard not to go. Because and then at the time too, they're decimating Bassmaster, or thought they were to a certain extent. And who knows what the elites were going to look like? Man, I remember those days, and it's like, oh crap, who's even going to be on the elite series now, other than about 20 dudes that we know, or 30?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was,
and yeah, so that's why we all went, and you know, a lot of people gave us hate for leaving, and I was like, look, dude, I know you had your opinion because it was, it was more personal.
It was
Wilburn,
sure.
and
Sure.
Looking back at it, I don't blame you one bit.
Yeah,
but of course, it's in my nature to stand up for because all I was doing was I was literally trying to make the sport better for competitors, and that was I was like, they sold me on that whole thing. It's like, dude, we're really going to do this for the longevity of the sport. This is the future. This is for our kids. Like, they're going to have a really good place to compete. And so I bought in on that. And so whenever guys, like, say you own a grocery store, and there's a guy that works for you for 20 years, and then all of a sudden he decides to go down the street and open his own grocery store because he's like, man, I ran into a little bit of money and I really want to own my own grocery store. And he goes and starts his own business. Well, then you say, well, I don't really support that. I'd rather you work for me. And so you start picketing in front of his store, trying to badmouth the store and want him to fail. Well, no one should support that. That's not how the world works. People are always going to try to go be better and create new businesses and create competition. And that's just how we work. So when people started like hating on us right off the bat, I was like, man, this sucks, because all we're trying to do is, from an angler standpoint, is truly trying to make a better place to compete. But at the same time, MLF just kept shooting, not just themselves in the foot, they kept shooting every one of us in the foot, and we kept on having to defend them. And I would straight up call Wilburn, call Boyd, and I would just be like, dude, can y'all just shut up for a minute and stop making this so hard on us? Like, yeah,
man.
You know, it's like, just shut up. Stop making this harder than what it needs to be.
For me in those days, especially those early days, man, it was just softball after softball after softball thrown my way once I voiced my opinion about it. And my whole thing was not BPT sucks, this is bad for the sport. It was, I did not like the fact that they bought the FLW Tour. I did not like how they were treating sponsors after they did it. And I thought that it was going to decimate the FLW Tour, and it did. It did, period, end of story. Would the FLW Tour gone away on its own? I don't know that. I've heard people say that be an argument, but the FLW Tour, as you well know, was a very good thing. The Forest Wood Cup was a very good thing, man. It is something that I miss and so many others miss, and anglers, fans, sponsors alike miss the FLW Tour. So they decimated that and continue to do so. And
me and Thrift was having dinner the other day, and we was talking about the old FLW Tour that year, like your rookie year, my rookie year, and all that. And we was like, man, it's hard to believe that was the good old days.
It was. It was, man. And we didn't know. You never know you're living in them when you're in them. There's an old saying, you don't know the good old days, and you're actually in them. And man, we all thought, I talked to Wesley Strader about this a couple times. You know, he left for the elites, and then obviously he stayed a year or whatever, and then BPT happened, and he made the shift. But it's like,
what he would give a lot of days to just go back to the FLW Tour. What a guy like Dudley, what Thrift, like we had the tiger by the tail and didn't realize it, to be honest.
Yeah.
It wasn't perfect. It wasn't perfect. You and I both know that. Pro fishing is not ever going to be perfect to a certain extent. But man, the FLW Tour, those were good days. There's no doubt.
Well, it may never be perfect, but I really feel like going through these last 7 or 8 years industry wide is created a lot of, it doesn't have to be perfect, but we can get it damn close to try to get it at least back to where we thought it was better. And
I agree with that.
And you can appreciate things differently now because we've gone so many different directions and stuff like that. So that's what's cool about the NPFL. It's like there's so many examples of what not to do, and
That's a fact.
And all we got to do is go in there and just keep a nice steady ship and be a drama-free culture where guys, because fishermen will go to bat for you and they will support you every single way they possibly can, as long as you don't screw them over. And so we got 100 and I don't know how big the field's up to now. Last list I saw was 113.
Yeah, something along those lines. But I think it's more the final, which you and I are recording this a little early. Folks will be listening on a Monday. But I think they're a day away from the applications closing. But I think that, yeah, they're going to get real close to full, if not over full, from what I hear.
You can either have 113 people trying to help you every way possible, or you can have 130 people there but hate you.
Yeah.
And that's where the BPT had gotten. You had people, almost every single person there. Now, granted, take away the people who've come in the last 2 or 3 years. They're like I was whenever I was a rookie on the Elite Series. I was just happy to be there. I wasn't part of all the initial conversations. They really don't have a lot to complain about.
They qualified for it. Yeah, they qualified for it through the tackle warehouse, and they're there. They're happy to be there. That's their top level.
Exactly. So minus them, but most of the guys that are there, they're just like, man, I'm just kind of numb. I'm just out here fishing. This is where my sponsors want me to be because we have so much TV coverage, but no one wants to be there. I say no one. A lot of people don't want to be there. They hate that freaking format. The every fish counts format is a joke. Period. It is not the same sport.
No, it's not the same sport everybody grew up with. That's for sure. And you know, I would say people would be shocked. I talked to a lot of anglers. Obviously, I know a lot of people, friends with, proud to be friends with a lot of people in the industry. There are some very well-known guys over there, I would say, that people think, oh, these are the top of the top BPT guys that are where you are describing mentally, that catch them in the format, that are, upper tier guys, call it, in the standings, that have, do their thing with the format. That when I have conversations off camera, off mic conversations that are very much what you're describing. And I took that from Andy Morgan's video more than anything. Is he said the word hate. Like, I actually got to where I hated this. And man, none of us should ever be there when it comes to bass fishing.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's where I was at. I would have quit. I wanted to quit. And I've talked to you throughout the last few years. So this isn't something people like, oh, well, he didn't qualify for we've talked BPT.
Yeah,
this has been the conversation.
You and I have talked about this. Yeah, we've talked about this several times, and you've said, "Hey, man, looking good over there." Like even early on, like I'd get a text from you, like, "Hey, man, watch y'all's coverage, looking good, man. I'm interested." Like, yeah, we've had that talk, but no doubt about it. This isn't just a right now thing.
No, and I was ready to quit the BPT man, I can't remember what exact year it was.
Was it after they went?
Ago.
They went to Five Fish.
Five.
It was before. Okay.
That year before we went to Five, I was ready to quit the BPT, and I went and actually paid my life membership at Bassmasters. I was all in and going into the Open. I talked to all my sponsors, and everyone was like, man, we really don't care where you fish. Go fish wherever it makes you happy, except for one. One of my biggest sponsors, one of my biggest endemic sponsors was like, no, if you're not fishing on the Elite Series or on the BPT, we're not going to pay you. You can't have this contract. And I was like,
I remember that. I remember this. Yeah.
Now it comes down to a business decision. And I was like, well, dang, I was like, I'm not going to. Hell, I'll tell you right now, that contract was close to a $60,000 contract.
I remember because you came on to talk about the Five Fish deal when it happened, and we had this discussion where you talked about you basically had no choice.
Yeah, and I did not like that feeling at all. Where I was like, man, I'm trapped. I can either just say, hey, thank y'all for your time. I don't want to do business with y'all, but you cannot. That level of sponsorship is very hard to replace.
Yeah,
especially whenever you love the product as well, and you just want to be part of it. They had people over their head that had expectations that I didn't have personal relationships with, and that's where that would come from. And so I was like, okay, well, if I can't just walk away from the BPT because of this one sponsor was just starting to invest in Bass Pro Tour. And the reason they were investing in Bass Pro Tour is because they had a bridge burn from Bassmaster. So it was kind of like the only place that they could be. And so they didn't want to be there. And that's the only place they wanted to be was Bass Pro Tour. So I was stuck there. And I was like, well, if I'm going to be stuck here, I was like, the least I'm going to do is put up one hell of a fight to change this format. So we had all had enough. I was actually thinking about dropping that big sponsor because I hated the format so bad. And I was just like, I don't care. I'm either going to quit fishing or I'm going to go fish somewhere where I'm happy at, fishing the way that, I mean, this is not the sport I didn't fish this way growing up. I can't do this. And so anyway, I kind of rounded up the troops, and, me, Jordan Lee, Brent Ayler, Randall Tharp, there's quite a few of us, and we got together and we was like, man, let's figure out how many of these guys want to fish for Five Fish. And we actually had a little bit of say as anglers still at this time because, we were still riding the idea of, man, we started losing too many big names, then we're not going to be relevant. And so so the threat of anglers quitting was still there. And so we actually had a voice. And it's like, so we got together and we started we did like an internal poll amongst all the anglers. And we said, how many of y'all hate the format? Well, it came down to like 90% of the anglers were like, I'm done with this. If we can change it to 5, but they'll never do it. So don't waste your time. And I was like, well, I'm at the point where they're either going to do it or I'm not going to fish with us no more. And there's several people that were feeling that same way. So we have nothing to lose. So we really put forth an effort. And once we figured out that most of the anglers were on the same page, then and the ones that weren't on the same page, those were Boyd Duckett fans. Like, they were his partners. Needless to say. So there wasn't even a fair vote from them.
There's always been that going on for sure.
Yeah. And so the real people is what I call them were like, nope, this is dumb. We don't want to fish this way. This is not how we should be competing. And so we put forth a bunch of effort. We had some Zoom calls with Boyd and Kathy, and we just laid it down. Like, this is what's going to happen, or we're all walking away from this. And I remember Kathy saying, I do not want another 2018 where guys just started leaving at one time. She goes, so we need to figure this out. And Kathy was very supportive. She's always been supportive towards the anglers.
She's awesome. Yeah, she's awesome.
She's awesome.
Human.
And she was like the only thing that kind of kept it together for me for as long as they did. But
might have lost Gerald.
Outcome of the vote was going to be because you there?
Got you again. Now, what about the outcome?
Yeah, we already knew the outcome of this vote because we did it internally prior to. So anyway, the vote came back and it showed pretty much the same thing. It was overwhelming to swap the 5 fish. And it's like, all right, let's do it. And so we went out and competed, and a lot of positive feedback from anglers, and they was just like, it's like they got a breath of fresh air. And they said, finally, man, got to go throw my glide bait, or I got to figure out how to go catch a big one after I got my 5, and just doing all the cool things that we do in bass fishing to put together a big bag. And everybody would seem happy. And then at the end of that year, they said our numbers were down. So of course they were. Of course they blame it. I don't even know I never believed our numbers anyway. But they blamed it on 5 fish. And they was like, hey, look, numbers are down. People just aren't staying engaged. People like that score tracker. And I was like, okay, whatever, here he comes. And it's like, we're going back to every fish counts. At the same time, in that same meeting, they said we're cutting the field from all the way down, from 80 guys all the way down to a field of 50. And we're going to do it on 35 based on AOY, career average AOY. And then the next 10 are going to come from current year AOY. And we were just like, and basically at that point, in other words, they were like, and y'all basically don't have a voice anymore.
Yeah. And don't raise your hand in the meeting anymore.
Don't raise. As a matter of fact, we're not even going to have meetings anymore.
Yeah. All that's going away.
We just went dark. And it's just like, if you want to play the game, you're just going to show up, pay your money, and not say anything. And we're going to do it the way we want to do it.
In the beginning, you guys had like representative anglers over different groups, right? That was how it was all structured. There was like an angler that would be in a text group with 10 guys or so, or something like that along those lines for communication.
Yeah, so we still had that even up to this year. But if you was on the angler board, so I was the liaison between the angler board and the league at one time. And basically the league would go, the anglers board would have a meeting, and then if they had to tell something to the league, then I would be the guy in between the board and the league. And eventually I stepped down from that. I was like, this is just falling on deaf ears. I'm just letting y'all know this. So all these meetings and these meetings would last over an hour between angler boards, and then you'd have to sit there and text like 10 guys and get their opinion, and they would all start putting their opinion back in the text message. And basically, if you was a board member, you was a babysitter for 10 guys, and then you would hear all this complaining, and then you would go back and try to come up with a resolution, and then you'd go back and tell the league about it, and they would just be like, okay, guys, not good work, we'll talk about it, and it would never go anywhere. And so it was like, well, what do we do? This is just everybody's waste of time is all this is. And all that stuff makes people disgruntled more and more and more and more and more. When you realize you're trying to come up with solutions, you're trying to solve problems, and they're just entertaining that just to shut you up and make you feel like you're doing something. And you know what I'm talking about.
No, I know. I'm smiling over here and laughing because I left a career of 18 years because of a lot of the same things you're describing.
It's normal.
Like meetings about
workplace.
It is, man.
Meetings about meetings.
It's called getting beat into submission. Beat into submission is what it is. Like we'll just talk in circles for enough days in a row. Eventually, nobody even knows which direction we're headed, and we'll move on to the next thing.
Yeah,
it's kind of hard always,
It's normal corporate environment, and I could tell it got corporate, and and I'm sure it was Boyd's idea where he was just like, let these guys talk, let them have something to talk about, and we're just going to keep doing business as usual.
Yeah. Yeah, let them feel like they're making a difference. Yeah, I think there's a lot of that goes on in life, period. Not just fishing, but yeah, there's a lot of that for sure.
So after that meeting, immediately, that was in 2024, going into the 2024 season. And immediately, everyone tried to figure out where they were. Like, am I going to make this 50 cut? Where am I at? And everything else. Going into 2025, is this something I need to worry about? Am I locked in? Because we had some drop years in there, and at the same time, some new people had came into the leagues. Like, how are they going to fit in? Some of us have been fishing this league for 5 years now. You got guys with 1 year. Do they have an average? Do they get drops? Like, we just didn't understand anything.
Very confusing.
Well, some of the guys are trying to figure that out, and then some of the other guys, like myself and Russ Lane and quite a few of us, were more focused on stopping them from doing this. It's like, hey, hold up, time out. You can't just do this. You made us a promise 5 years ago that we was going to go to the moon on a rocket ship or something like that. Like, what happened? Like, you made us all leave the Elite Series or leave the FLW Tour to come over here and start this league. And now all of a sudden, you're rolling everybody's head in the office. They started firing everybody down to production, Don Rux, like all these people, all the Todd Walker, everybody was getting cut, plus anglers. And it's like, okay, now I understand what's happening. It made sense to me, no matter whether the boy wants to admit it or not. But he told me early on in the business that we're on a 6-year budgeted loss. We have 6 years to turn this profitable. If we don't do this in 6 years, our investor, Stan Kroenke, which owns 50% of Major League Fishing, is going to potentially pull away from us, pull out of this whole thing. And we can't afford that. And if anybody knows Stan Kroenke, he owns a professional team in every sport. He owns the Rams, and he owns that giant stadium and all this. The dude's a billionaire. And then his wife is one of the heirs to Walmart, and she's a billionaire. So
no shortage of pocket money around there, folding money around there.
Yeah, you do not want this dude to walk away from an investment. And so I get what Boy was. He was like, hey, no matter what, we got to make him happy. So, yeah, you're right. We do have to make him happy. Let's start by making a good product. But anyway.
That's where it should start.
We was rolling into year 6. And all these cuts started happening, and everything's all of a sudden getting restructured. We're going from 10 cameras to 6 cameras. We're going from 80 guys to 50 guys. We're going from a 25-man staff down to a 5-person staff. It's like, okay, this is how you plan on making Major League Fishing profitable going into 2025 or 2026. I mean, 2024 at the time. Sorry, it's hard to keep up with all that. Going into 2024 is you're going to gut this thing. You're going to gut it and then maintain the sponsorship relations that we have moving forward, and that's going to immediately show a profit because we don't have any overhead at all of a sudden. And so it was all just smoke and mirrors, obviously, to me, but it was on sponsors weren't going to benefit from this, and anglers aren't benefiting from this, and in Boyd's eyes, this is the only way we can make it work. It's like, okay, well, if it's the only way you can make it work, just come out and say that. Just say, guys, I had to close the doors on this thing unless we do this. But don't pretend like you got another good idea, because I used to tell this to Boyd all the time. I'd be the one on the phone with Boyd, and I would say, I remember my exact words to him one time. I said, do you just sit in a room with a bunch of people that agree with you? I was like, because does anyone tell you when you does anyone tell you when you have a bad idea? Because it doesn't seem that way. There's no way that you're sitting in the room with a bunch of these fishing heads, people that have been in the sport forever, and they tell you that they think this is a good idea. They're just basically listening to you and saying, yeah, Boyd, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. And and it just, it was just ridiculous to most of us. But anyway, so we started immediately trying to stop him from this. And the first thing we do was like, let's stop it. And then we need to figure out how to make it to where we don't need to do this. If there's a financial reason we're doing all of this stuff, we need to understand what do we need to do to fix that. But first we need to know the truth. But we need to stop all this stuff. And so a bunch of us went to work, and that's when we formed that MLFAA. And I called you about it. We talked about it.
We talked about it.
And I was telling you it was all going down. And so we started trying to organize and put up a fight. We even got some consultants involved that came from Major League Baseball and everything else. And we got legit, and we got attorneys involved and everything. And what a lot of what cracks me up is if the cut would have happened when Boyd originally wanted to make it happen, I would have been safe on career AOY. And I still chose to go and fight for anglers that weren't safe. And because I didn't think it was right. So my career average at the time, I think, was at 29 was my AOY average. I've actually, this year I did horrible in Major League Fishing. It's the worst season I've ever had in my entire career. But prior to that, my worst finish on the Bass Pro Tour AOY was 48th, and I had a 43rd and a 41st out of 6 years. And the rest of them, I made red crest. I either made red crest or barely missed red crest. So when we got down to the drops didn't really help me at all. But it still had my average because I had a couple years where I was way up there in AOY points, like top 10. And so my average was pretty solid in the 20s. And but I still had that mindset of like, no, I need the strength of all these guys in one spot for us to, if we get down to 50, we have no chance as anglers. So we had to try to shut down this mindset of this is no longer an angler ran league. Let's at least put up a fight for that, if anything. And so we put up a fight, and the best we was able to get out of the situation was cut the field to 65 instead of 50. And then the following year we would cut to 50. And at that point, after we felt like we did all we can do, several people quit on their own. Actually the list to make the BPT went very far down of people that weren't even requalified. And it went almost down to the bottom just to fill the field because quite a few guys said, I'm done after this. This was the final thing. And so anyway, a bunch of guys got put back in, and there's quite a few guys that made this new cut going all the way down to 35 on AOY that wouldn't even be there if we wouldn't have put up that fight last year.
Yep.
But whenever the cut happened this year, a lot of those guys, crickets, silence. And then that's whenever I was just like, man, the people that put up the fight for all these years have already left. They're gone. Yep. They walked away. So I felt like Boyd had basically collected his minions at that point. Not to take away from a lot of these anglers, they're a bunch of my buddies, but I'm not telling you anything. I haven't told them. But he had people that weren't rocking the boat no more, and we're just going to do exactly what he said. And whenever we cut the field this year, Boyd Duckett didn't even have the respect to come to the last few in-person meetings with Major League Fishing to pat people on the back and shake people's hand and say, thank you for your years. Thanks for helping us start this league. Nothing. Nothing. Which made me realize that, dude, he was definitely the snake oil salesman the entire time that everyone kept saying. Now that confirms it. He just couldn't even make a phone call to some of these anglers and say, man, I apologize. This is the industry has never made cuts like this to a professional organization. There's guys that still wanted to fish at Major League Fishing just because they just didn't know where else to go. I think now they might be thinking differently, but people were just scared of change. And they was like, man, my sponsors are here. Like, so they were scared financially.
Plus, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of pressure.
A few months ago, there's a bunch of us I wasn't even sure if I was even going to get into the NPFL. There was so much interest in the NPFL. I was like, I don't even know if they're going to let me in. So,
well, I take credit for that, Gerald.
I had a job.
Gerald, I pulled some strings for you, dude. I made some calls, No, I'm just nobody called me. That's a joke. That's a joke. Gerald got in because Gerald's Gerald. Don't you be texting me and calling me. I want in the NPFL. I can't get in, Luke. Help me. I have zero pull. Less than zero.
Luke says
pull.
No, you're out.
Yeah. Now I will say this. I'll tell this story on Low Budget Live real quick. I have gotten a couple veto votes before when I get called about somebody, and there have been a couple that I have definitely cast a veto vote for, and I think there were multiple people that cast a veto vote, but over the years, I will say that sometimes I do get a phone call like, "Is this guy a piece of crap?" I'm like, "Yeah, we probably don't want to let him play in the sandbox."
Yeah,
that's happened before.
If it's probably necessary for some of those guys, because if there is a few of those in our industry,
no doubt,
and they've done a lot. They did a lot to get to that point.
Hey, no doubt. Yeah, man. I obviously I'm all about working through things and talking things out, but there are some people that their reputation precedes them, to say the least, for one reason or another. And there've been a couple times over the years that I get a phone call like, "Hey, do you know this guy? This guy said he fished FLW with you." I'm like, "Oh boy, yeah, we're going to want to probably say no to that." For sure. But, man, I think that, for me, Gerald, that some of the most eye-opening things we've seen is a guy like Mike McClellan, who was one of the original owners back in the day,
Yeah.
Skeet Reese retiring, Kevin Van Dam retiring, original owners, Ike and Ellie, who was an owner going back to Bass. It's just one thing after another with that organization that have just been just crazy to me to see. But I will say this, and I'm not a guy that hearsay is not something I do. If I say it, I believe it, and I've got it from good authority most of the time. I can tell you that 99% of the time. And I was told not long ago by someone that is very connected in the sport, and been in it and around it since he was a kid, that is involved over there, has been on a sponsor level at times. And the word is the Cronky outdoor group, whatever it's called, happy partnership is not happy these days. And that could be going away, and that there could potentially be a payback type situation where investments have to be paid back, is what I have been told by someone that would absolutely know. Now, allegedly, I'll say that. So don't sue me, anybody.
Well,
but allegedly that's the case. And how could you be happy in the investment? And I don't know that Stan Kroenke himself actually knows about any of this, because like you said, he's a multi-billionaire. He's got a lot going on, and investments happen without him even knowing about it a lot of times, I'm sure, because that's how those type individuals work.
He has an entire team that manages all this stuff, and I've actually had dinner with some of the people that are in charge of that, what we call that asset. Like, this is they follow this, but they know they have to give reports, and they have to say, "Hey, dude, this is legit or not legit." And you can fool a bunch of bass fishermen in a lot of ways, but that company's their job is to understand true 100% transparency. Like, is this worth the investment? Are they doing what they said they was going to do? And you can't hide from them long. And I was like, if Boyd's just cutting the field and firing all these people and doing all this stuff just to try to show an immediate profit, to make the books look good, that in short term, all he did was buy himself a couple years. That's all he did. And at some point, you got to deliver. And so. And I told this to Boyd as well whenever I was on the safe side of things and I was trying to have conversations about the decisions he was making. I was like, "Hey, dude, I get it. You might be looking at your side business wise. You might be thinking that hey, this is how I can make things look good immediately on the books. But I was like, has anyone ever stopped to think about and how valuable each individual angler is to the company? And I'm not talking about like in a way of, oh, people tune in just to watch Jacob Wheeler. He does. He's one of the few that you could say, oh, they actually, people want to see why this dude's so good. But for the rest of us, not one single, as a whole, people might tune in to watch. But what I mean by that is, what I was trying to tell him, I was like, do you not understand that some of these people have relationships with companies that the companies are gonna stick with these anglers no matter where they fish, and they potentially could stop investing in Major League Fishing if that angler is no longer there. So have you gone through and looked at what anglers potentially have these relationships with these companies and what that dollar is that's coming into Major League Fishing, and can we potentially lose that money if this angler leaves? And then put a damage assessment on that and figure out how much money are we potentially at risk here by getting rid of some of the biggest names in the sport that's been around forever. And it's not that they're the biggest names in the sport, they just been around forever. So they have these big relationships. They helped start some of these companies.
No doubt.
And I just told him, I said, I think it's really reckless for you to just go in there and do something like this without doing a real in-depth deep dive into what you potentially could be costing the company. And they never did that. And I just thought that was stupid on them, because there's companies that I deal with that have spent a lot of money with Major League Fishing that said that they will not spend another dollar there. And I'm just one guy. You imagine, you start really looking at, dude, I brought my non-endemics there. I don't know, whenever early on, when you remember watching some of the first few years, they played that SWAT commercial.
Yeah.
Between every fish catch, it seemed like.
Yeah, I remember that.
You know, I mean, this is a welding company that I talked into spending hundreds of thousands of dollars with that organization. And as soon as I looked at them and said, "Hey, dude, I'm really not a fan of this organization anymore," they pulled out. So anglers have say in the financials, and for the company to not even consider that is another irresponsible thing I felt like they did. And anyway, so.
Well, I think that the knee-jerk reaction for people, when you said corporate, you know, and that's my experience when things go corporate, the knee-jerk reaction to things not going well is, well, we just need to cut all these people, not knowing what they bring to the table, not caring. It's a spreadsheet with a name and a number next to it. And they're like, oh, well, if we cut these 23 people right here, this is where we get. That's what one of the things I experienced right before I made a big life change a couple years ago was like, dude, we're firing 23 people for no reason, just because you guys want to, you know, get a better corporate bonus at the end of the year, or to make this look a little bit better for your stockholders. That is bizarre, man. And it is smoke and mirrors. It is bait and switch, you know, for sure. And it will always catch up with you, because if the numbers aren't real, and they're not, if you only get to positivity by making cuts, you're not growing. You know what I mean? You're eventually you are going to run out of rope. That's that whole sustainable conversation. It is dead on. You are going to run out of rope at some point. Not just talking about BPT, ML. The same goes for Bassmaster, NPFL, any tournament organization, or any business. If you are robbing Peter to pay Paul, eventually somebody's going to come calling.
Yeah, and Boyd used to always say that. And that was a term that I took very seriously. He always used to say, hey, guys, we got to get everybody pulling the rope in the same direction. Sponsors, anglers, staff. And I'm over here like beating my chest, like, give me the rope. I'm going to pull the hardest. Like, I'm going to do whatever. That's just the way I buy in. That's the way I buy into everything. And that's, I'll do whatever to help, because I'm invested in this. I'm not just an angler. I'm invested in this. I just altered my career. I'm invested. And I promised other anglers that I was going to see this through. And so I tried really hard, but he never actually was able to get everyone pulling the rope. If everyone is pulling the rope, he was right about that. If you can get everyone pulling the rope, you can move mountains. But he never was able to get everybody on the same page. There was always a group of people unhappy, whether it was sponsors, investors, anglers. You couldn't get everybody on the same page, and so that was a very challenging thing to do. But and me as an angler that was pulling that rope, I was always trying to be part of the conversation to say, okay, well, what are we doing wrong? How can we improve? Let's start here. I was the guy that was trying to be honest about what we were doing, and I wasn't the person that was just trying to agree with everything that was going on. I was the one to say, no, man, this is why we're catching hell on social media. This is why people don't like what we're doing. This is why this is a problem. This is why this rule needs to be changed. And let's get into that. And then maybe we can start getting more of these people to start pulling the rope. And it just, more people just kept dropping the rope, dropping it. And until you're just left standing there by yourself. And that's where we ended up getting. And in the end, Boyd knows that. That's why he finally threw his hands up and was like, okay, well, this is no longer an angle ran league. So we're just going to go ahead. I really don't care what anybody thinks. We're just going to go ahead and do it this way, just because I know Cronky's Sportsman's Group's breathing down my neck. And so I just want to try to make the book look real good. I don't care who's pissed, because y'all are pissed anyway.
Yeah. And you're never, and to be fair, you're never going to make everybody happy, and nobody, it's a crazy thought to get everybody pulling the rope in the same direction. It's almost like a cult leader needs that to happen, because there's always going to be an outlier, right? Whether you're pulling in the same direction, you were still a guy that was going to criticize or bring up your opinions. You know what I mean? When I think of people that say, everybody pulling the rope, hey, it's my way or the highway. Y'all get on this rope and let's pull it. And I think that's probably more what he wanted. He didn't want pushback like so many leaders don't at times. But here's the deal, Gerald. One thing about it, you can lay your head down at night knowing that you fought for the betterment of pro fishing, that you fought for your fellow anglers, you fought for yourself, and you can't get where you're going without knowing where you've been, son. And you've been a lot of places, and next year you got a lot to look forward to, man. And I'm looking forward to spending time with you out there on the NPFL next year.
Man, I am too. And like I said, after talking to so many anglers and getting such positive feedback, hold on one second. I got to deal with this guy real quick. He's walking up to the skid steer.
All right.
Hey, I'm on a conference call right now. Okay. All right. Yeah, I couldn't stop that one. He was approaching me.
It's all good, man. It's all good. I appreciate
I'll put this in your mailbox. but yeah, I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were like, man, it's like getting the band back together. This reminds me of back in the day. And we're just going back to doing it the way that it used to be done. I say a lot of people, like 99% of the feedback I got from posting that video I posted was positive. And then there were some people that cherry picked, oh, you just hate forward facing sonar.
Of course.
It's like, dude, that ain't really what this was about. And I shouldn't even have mentioned it in the video, just to avoid that part of the conversation, because it was not a deciding factor for me. I actually like forward facing sonar. But do I believe it belongs in competitive bass fishing? Man, I don't know. This is the way I've kind of landed on that. I just think it's a different game. It's not the same game. It's not the same game. It's like I think it's cool. If you want to go play that game, there should be a league that focuses on that game. And then there should also be a league that we're playing the game that we originally started. We don't want to just axe the original game. We just, if you want to play two separate games, we can play two separate games. But that is not the same game, and everyone keeps trying to put the two together. And so, NPFL is the only league you can go and play the original game. And that's all it is to it. And that's the sport that I love. That's the game that I love. And that's what I was trying to depict in that when I made those comments. Of course, people didn't take it as that. They're like, oh, you're a forward-facing hater. It's like, no, man, I would love to put on my forward-facing sonar and go compete on a Toledo Bend or somewhere like that where it's a really good scoping lake. That is a lot of fun.
No doubt.
But mixing it all up and all that stuff, the bad part about mixing it for a guy like me, the reason I kind of struggled with the mix is because you either had to be pretty much all in on one or the other. We only get 2 days of practice. So in 2 days, you're trying to figure out where you can catch them scoping and where you can catch them just regular fishing. Well, that's very hard to do. Typically, we had 3 days of practice. Then we cut it to 2 days of practice without a vote. That was another thing. And then now you're trying to make us play two different games and during the same game. And some guys wouldn't even go to the bank. The best strategy actually over the last year was 100% focus on scoping your one period and just go to the bank or go regular fishing in the blind. But you can make all your hay in that one period and do well in the tournament. That's where I had a problem with that is a guy would go and just wing it for 2 periods doing whatever and may not catch a bass, but he'd go catch 100 pounds in one period, and that would make his tournament.
Drew Gill calls it the turbo round. Got to catch him in that turbo round.
And to be honest with you, the only chance I have to compete against a guy like a Drew Gill, because there's a lot of really, really, really good ones, but he's like the best in the world at it.
I believe that. Yeah.
And he's a phenomenal person on top of that. I tell him all the time, I said, you're my favorite rookie. Like you're my favorite, and I fear you more than anybody because I know you're going to catch him every single tournament. But anyway, that dude, I can't compete with a guy like that. He is so good and efficient and hyper focused. He's like a scientist out there attacking these fish with forward facing sonar, and it's because of the amount of time he spends on the water, and it's because it's the only thing he does. So the only chance I had against a dude like that if I fished for 5. But every fish counts. He'll just run you over like a train.
Yeah, he's going to run the score up. Yeah, he's going to run the numbers up.
He's going to run the score up.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'm like a Derrick Henry, and he was like a A-chain.
Yeah. You down there on 3rd and goal on the 1 inch line, trying to run that ball in, and he's slinging it all over the damn field.
Yeah, it's like whoa.
He's that West Coast offense. Yeah, he's not ground and pound. That's for sure.
I definitely don't want to take away from how good those guys are at that, because they came into this sport with that technology.
That's right.
And they have taken it to another level. They have set the bar with that stuff. And I don't want to take away from those talents. I'm just personally want to go play the game the way I like to. I want to go play the game that we started. And that was what I'm good at. I'm not saying I'm not good at scoping, but it would take a lot of my time. I definitely couldn't own a dirt business if I wanted to get good enough at competing against a Drew Gill at every fish counts with a forward facing sonar.
No, I get that for sure, buddy. Well, let's end with this today. I want Gerald Spohrer's. Gerald Spohrer left me. All right. One last question. You said my voice is coming through like a 4-year-old girl. I hope that I pray that's not being recorded, because I'll definitely never hear the end of that from all these low-lifers. But I want Gerald Spohrer's number one goal for the NPFL season next year.
I think you said number one goal.
Number one goal for the 2026 NPFL season.
Man, I just want to go in there. My number one goal is to have fun, and I want to be competitive. It's been a long time since I've fished for 5 and boxed them. I'll put it that way. I got to remember how to cull. I got to remember how to keep them alive. And then I got to remember time management. We used to always fish for up to a clock and then stop at the end of the day. And now I gotta integrate that again. So, I'm a little nervous. I just want to be competitive and do well. I mean, it's a stacked field, and so I just want to go over there and roll with these dudes a little bit and cut a few checks. So my main goal is to get in there and be successful, make a championship, and not fall flat on my face. Because when you have a season as bad as I did this year, now the reason my season was so bad is because I had such a bad attitude. I'm going to have a really good attitude at NPFL because of what we're doing, and I know who all is going to be there.
Well, it's going to be a fun ride, man. I appreciate you taking us along with the thought process and riding around in the Louisiana Land Pro skid steer this morning, buddy. I appreciate you very much.
All right, Luke. Well, it's always a pleasure, and I'm looking
No
forward to working with you and Fat Cat next year.
It's going to be a good time.
Let's go make some fishing TV.
No doubt about it, buddy. I will see you at the Harris Chain. Was
Okay.
I supposed to say that out loud? I'm not even sure if that's been announced. I just probably got fired. I'll see you in Florida, TBD.
Yeah.
Fuller
The schedule's
alert.
out there. It's out there.
I pray to God Brad Fuller didn't see this if the schedule's not out. But I bet he did. Love you, Brad. See you, Gerald. Thank you, man.
All right. Later.
That's all she wrote with Gerald Spohrer right there. I'm telling you, multitasking, low lifing with us and driving a skid steer. Hopefully he brings it to Tennessee and does some work up here. I can always use a skid steer around, but thanks to Gerald for that, man. Just a absolute open and honest conversation, like every conversation he and I have ever had on this show. And after we finished the interview, he was sure to tell me he'd been asked by a lot of podcasts to do an interview, but he was only going to do one, and it was this one right here for you low-lifers. So, again, we have a history and that revolves around this show, and I look forward to Gerald being on the NPFL. It's going to be a great 2026 with him over there and the rest of the crew that's coming. So, thank y'all for checking that out. Make sure you're subscribed to this YouTube channel if you're not, and if you don't want to, that's fine too. You know what? Just keep hanging around. We'll take y'all with some Biloxi Blues, and I'll see y'all next week. See you.
I never could make it last. Spanish moss and Civil War ghosts, well, I'm gonna leave them in the past. Any direction, Lord, I'll be fine. It don't matter east or west. North, south, wherever the wind blows, I'm leaving those burdens at rest. This highway, it does not know my name, and I don't care, no, I don't care.